More than 10 years had passed since the divorce. I was 47, my name was Oksana Sergeevna, and I lived alone in Lida, a small Belarusian town where everyone knows each other, at least by rumor. The pharmacy where I worked was right in the center, by the old market. After my shift, I often walked back to my Khrushchevka apartment with headphones in, as if music could drown out the emptiness at home. My ex-husband had long since built a new life, and my son had moved to the Czech Republic. He called occasionally, but more often wrote in messengers. I tried not to show my loneliness, always wore neat dresses, modest, but flattering to my figure, low-heeled shoes, and light makeup. Clients would say I had everything in place and that a woman like me shouldn't be alone. But they didn't know how hard evenings could be. That day, I badly strained my back. I'd simply reached for a box of ointments on the top shelf in the storeroom. A click, and that was it. The pain was so intense I couldn't breathe. I had to ask for time off work. For a couple of days, I lay at home, rubbing myself with warming creams and cursing my age. On the third day, the doorbell rang. Marina, my neighbor from the third floor, stood at the door, a woman about 5 years older, full of energy and always up to date with the building's latest news. Oksana, are you sick? You haven't been to the pharmacy in 3 days. Here's some homemade soup, and listen. There's a man in our neighborhood, Anatoly. He used to work as a masseur in a sanatorium. Now he takes clients at home. All the old ladies go to him, happy, glowing even. They say his hands are magic. I smiled skeptically. Marina, do you really want me to go undress in front of some man? You're not going there to undress, you're going to get well. He's cultured, careful. Besides, he's a widower. It's cozy at his place. Most importantly, he knows where and how to press. My lower back pain was gone after 2 sessions. Marina gave me his number. I stared at it on my phone for a long time. You'd think I was a grown woman, but I felt like a schoolgirl, unsure if I should call. That evening, I finally decided. Hello. The voice was low, confident, but gentle. It carried warmth and something familiar. Hello. Marina from the third floor recommended you. I've hurt my back. It hurts a lot. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., if you can. I'll send the address by SMS. Bring a robe or something comfortable to throw on. He didn't ask unnecessary questions. He wasn't politely pushy. That immediately put me at ease. In the morning, I spent a long time choosing what to wear. I settled on a long dark blue skirt and a blouse with a neat collar. I put my hair in a low bun, added a drop of vanilla perfume, just for myself. Or maybe not only for myself. Anatoly's house was on the outskirts, a typical panel building. On the door, a neat sign, massage. I rang, and a few seconds later, a tall man of about 50 opened the door. Light eyes, gray at the temples, and an almost military bearing. Oksana. Come in. Inside, it smelled of eucalyptus and some kind of balm. Calm, clean. On the wall, anatomical posters in the corner, a couch with a white sheet. Undress to your underwear, hang up your robe. I'll step out. I was left alone, my heart pounding. Not from fear, just from unfamiliarity. When he returned, his hands didn't tremble. The oil was warm, his movements confident but delicate. He slowly worked over my lower back, searching for the pain point. Here? Yes. I almost moaned when he pressed. He apologized, smiling slightly. That means I hit the spot. I lay on my stomach, the fabric barely touching my skin. His fingers were strong, but there was almost tenderness in them. He avoided the chest area, not touching, but every movement somehow stirred me. Maybe it was the oil, or the warmth, or simply a man's hands, which hadn't been near me for far too long. Have you been alone for long? He suddenly asked, gently touching my back. More than 10 years. Me, 6. Silence. You know, he continued, people often come to me for a massage, but leave with something more. Some with relief, some with peace, and some with the feeling that someone noticed them again. He spoke as his fingers softly squeezed the thigh muscles, moving slightly higher, but within the bounds of propriety. The pain receded. Along with it, my defenses. I think you should do at least 2 more sessions. Your muscles are very tense. Okay, I replied, quieter than I intended. When I was leaving, he handed me my coat and helped me with my scarf. His fingers brushed my neck, and I shivered. His gaze was long, almost piercing. See you tomorrow. I nodded. The next day, I woke up earlier than usual. My back hardly hurt, but something ached inside. Yesterday's sensations lingered, especially his hands. Nothing improper had happened, but even Anatoly's gaze left a mark. I put on a lighter dress, long, burgundy, with a wrap and a belt at the waist. It concealed everything, but in motion flowed over my body, as if hinting. My hair, soft waves, loose. I highlighted my eyes. Why, I didn't know. Or maybe I did. Anatoly greeted me at the door just as calmly, but his eyes lingered on me for a moment. He noticed the change, I was sure. The room smelled of eucalyptus and incense again. Only this time, instead of classical music, something more sensual played, slow, languid jazz. How was your night? He asked, indicating the chair where a fresh robe lay. Much better than before. Thank you. Today we need to work on your side and upper back. To relieve the remaining tension. I changed behind the screen. The thin fabric of the robe clung to my body, cool after my skin. I lay on my side at his request. If anything feels uncomfortable, let me know right away. He started with my neck. His fingers gently traced the outline of my nape, sinking into the roots of my hair. A chill ran down my spine. He leaned in closer, breathing evenly, but warmly. Then he moved to my shoulders. His palms gripped the muscles with a surgeon's precision, yet there was something intimate in his touch. Respectful and gentle. Do you always work so carefully? I blurted out. Only if the person deserves it, he answered quietly. A shiver ran through me, and not from the cold. He moved lower, along my side, from underarm to thigh, working every muscle. Sometimes he brushed me lightly with his elbow or forearm. These moments were barely perceptible, yet thrilling. Every time his body was near, my breath caught. You have very expressive skin, he suddenly said. It tells me when it's pleased. I didn't know how to respond. I just squeezed my eyes shut and allowed myself a small smile. He asked me to turn on to my stomach. Calm and confident. I obeyed. His palms rested on my lower back, right at the curve, and slowly moved upward. Look what's happening. He placed his fingers just above my hips. There's tension here, even though your back is almost clear now. It's probably stress. Or old, deep-seated tension. And then I realized he could feel me. Not just my skin and muscles. My mood. My state. My exhaustion. People often tell me I keep everything inside. Maybe you sensed that. It's plain as day, he replied with a smile. But right now, you're relaxed. And it was true, I felt like I was melting. Defenseless. But not in a bad way. With him, I wanted to let everything go. Even myself. He began massaging my glutes. Through the thin robe. Professional, within boundaries, but every wave on my skin resonated much deeper than the muscles. His fingers grazed the inside of my thigh, just enough to call it a clinical touch, but inside, I knew he understood exactly where he was touching. And he knew what he was doing. "Is everything all right?" he asked, leaning closer. I nodded. My lips trembled slightly. "Would you like some water? Or a break?" "No, I'm fine." He returned to my back. Smooth, measured. I no longer knew where pain ended and desire began. Suddenly, he stopped. His hands were still on me, but they didn't move. "Forgive me," he whispered. "But I feel more than I should." I turned my head. Our eyes met. There was restraint in his gaze, but also genuine attraction. No vulgarity, no pressure. Only honesty. "Me too," I breathed out. He didn't kiss me. Didn't touch me further. He simply covered my back with a blanket and sat nearby. "We can continue tomorrow. Or talk. I don't want to do anything that will make me blame myself or you afterward." It was unexpectedly noble. And maybe that's why I trusted him even more. Come tomorrow. And not just as a massage therapist. I barely slept that night. My body felt perfect. For the first time in days, nothing hurt. But inside, I was restless. I kept replaying the moment when he stopped, covered me with a blanket, and sat beside me. His voice, his gaze, restrained, yet burning. In the morning, I gathered my hair into a soft, messy bun, leaving a few strands around my face. I put on thick black leggings and a loose white wrap shirt. It slid off my shoulder, accidentally or not, I couldn't tell. On top, a gray cardigan and a scarf. Simple. But in the mirror, it looked almost too cozy. When I knocked on his door, he opened it instantly. He wore the same gray sweater as on the first day. His hair was slightly tousled, his expression calm and a bit wary. "Come in." We barely spoke. But the silence wasn't awkward, it was full. I took off my cardigan and neatly laid it over the back of a chair. Anatoly took a clean robe and handed it to me. "Today, we'll work on your neck and thoracic area. That's where anxiety often gets stuck," he said, a bit softer than usual. I changed behind the screen. He didn't peek. Still, I felt his presence, as if he was already touching me. I came out in the robe, and he helped me lie on my side. His fingers traveled along my neck, pressing gently into the skin. I could feel his breath near my ear. Suddenly, a shiver went through me, and he noticed. "Are you cold?" "No, quite the opposite." He said nothing. He simply continued. His palms slid along my collarbone, carefully slipping under the edge of the robe, but still within acceptable limits. At least, seemingly so. "You're very tense here. Do you put a lot of pressure on yourself?" he asked. "Constantly. I'm a woman." He smirked, not rudely, but with understanding. "Do you want someone to feel sorry for you?" "Yes. Sometimes." The room grew quieter. Even the music stopped. Only breathing remained. My own, uneven. His, steady, attentive. He stood up, asked me to sit so he could work on my shoulders. I sat, and he stood behind me. His fingers wrapped around my shoulders, his thumb traced the base of my neck. Then, unexpectedly, he touched my cheek with the back of his hand. "Sorry," he said again, "I think I've crossed the line again." I turned around. Our faces were dangerously close. His hand stayed on my shoulder, unmoving. but it was enough to make the air between us heavy. "I'm not afraid," I said. "Just don't leave." In silence, he traced his fingers along my cheek, then let his hand fall to the belt of my robe, but didn't untie it. Instead, he gently traced the line of my shoulder blades. I lay on my stomach again. "I want to try something. For the lower back area. It's a bit more intimate. But completely professional." He waited for my consent. I nodded, and he took a firm bolster and placed it under my stomach. My pelvis was slightly raised. His hands moved along the inside of my thighs, slowly, carefully. Breathing became harder. "Are you okay?" he asked again. "Better than okay." He began massaging the line between my lower back and glutes. Very slowly, deeply. It felt as if everything inside me was melting. I tried to hold my breath, but sometimes a quiet, almost plaintive sigh escaped anyway. "That's normal. Let your body speak," he said, his hands never stopping. I closed my eyes. There was no shame, no fear. I was under his hands, not controlled, but safe. When he finished, he covered me with a blanket, sat next to me as before, silent again. "If we keep going like this, it's no longer just a massage," I whispered. He took my hand. "I don't want it to remain just a massage." We stayed silent. Only skin to skin. His palm embraced mine, as if it had always belonged to him. The next morning, I didn't immediately understand where I was. There was no scent of eucalyptus, the pillow smelled unfamiliar, masculine. Then I remembered I had fallen asleep at his place. After the third session, after we simply sat together, and he said he didn't want it to remain just a massage. We didn't kiss. We didn't rush. But it was closer than many embraces in my life. I stretched, my back pain gone. But my heart. It beat as if expecting something forbidden. Anatoly returned from the kitchen with a cup of green tea. He wore a home shirt, slightly unbuttoned. A scar on his neck, like former soldiers have. He noticed my gaze and smiled. "Old. The sanatorium isn't just about health, sometimes it's about fights. I thought everyone there just liked you." "Well, maybe they did." He set down the tea and sat across from me. "But you're the first I've let stay overnight." I lowered my gaze. My cheeks flushed. I felt like a teenager, not a woman over 40. I felt good too. Without words. We fell silent again. But this time, not because we didn't know what to say, but because everything was in that silence. Desire, gratitude, and the fear of losing this fragile closeness. "Do you want, today, not to call it a session?" he asked. "Just stay with me. No robes, no instructions." I nodded. He led me to the massage room, but now it felt completely different. No longer medical. It was our room. A space where touch ceased to be functional. I stayed in a thin shirt and long skirt. He didn't ask me to change. He simply came over, stood behind me, ran his fingers from my nape to the middle of my back. I shivered. "Today, only hands." "And heart," he whispered. His palms embraced me from behind. I stood, my head thrown back onto his shoulder. His breath touched my neck. One of his hands rested on my abdomen, just below my ribs, staying there, warm, confident, grounding. Then we sat on the couch. He started massaging my feet, and it was the most intimate moment of all. Every touch to my toes, my arch, my ankle felt like a confession of love. He knew how to touch me so I felt like a woman, not an object. So I wouldn't shrink from embarrassment, but open up from trust. "You have beautiful legs," he suddenly said. And they shouldn't just stand still. I want you to dance. To live more boldly. Maybe, if you're near, I'll dare. He touched my neck again. This time, a little longer. His fingers traced my collarbones, then slowly, downward, along the line of my chest. Over the fabric. Carefully. Questioningly. And when I didn't pull away, he continued. But still within limits. Still on the edge. We lay down side by side. He hugged me by the waist, and I nestled into his chest. Why aren't you married? I asked. Because I haven't met someone I'd want to live in the same rhythm with again. Until you. I didn't know what to say. So I just hugged him tighter. He kissed my temple. Slowly. As if afraid to break this morning. We lay there, unhurried. And I thought, for the first time in many years, lying next to a man, I felt no shame, no obligation, no tension. Only warmth. And gratitude for every line of my body, which he touched not as a part, but as a story. After that meeting, we saw each other almost every day. No sessions, no robes, no secret glances. We were simply together. Drinking tea, talking about silly things, laughing, sometimes silent, but in that silence, there was more closeness than in 100 words. He touched my life like a quiet storm. No destruction, but everything inside was turned upside down. One morning, I brought him a jar of honey from the village and my signature ginger tincture. He smiled like a child. You spoil me. And you heal me. I think it's a fair exchange. That evening, he cooked dinner himself, chicken with garlic and roasted pumpkin. We ate right on the balcony, wrapped in blankets, among candles and the evening breeze. He stroked my hand, and I felt something inside him change. Become anxious. You're strange today, I said. Is everything okay? He fell silent. Then sighed. I got a call from the sanatorium. They offered me to come back. Good place, good salary. In Pyatykatki, near Dnipro. All official. I felt my world sway a little. He didn't look at me. Only squeezed my hand tighter. It's a chance, he continued. For a new life. And maybe, I'd like to take someone who's become part of mine. I didn't immediately understand what he meant. My heart either stopped or doubled its beat. Do you want me to go with you? I do. But I'm not asking. Because I know you're attached to your life, to your pharmacies, to your routine. And I'm afraid to be alone again. I didn't say anything. Just sat closer and pressed my cheek to his shoulder. Let me think, I said. The next morning, I woke up alone. He wasn't there. On the pillow, a note. Went to do paperwork. I'll be back in the evening. Don't be afraid, I'm not disappearing. Just giving you space. I walked around the apartment, peeked into the empty kitchen, the bathroom, touched the door frames where traces of his fingers still remained. Everything reminded me of him. I realized I wasn't afraid of a new place. I was afraid of losing him. But by evening, he hadn't returned. Not at 9. Not at 11. His phone didn't answer. No messages, no calls. I couldn't sleep. My heart was sounding the alarm. In the morning, I went to the pharmacy, just to distract myself. But everything felt like a blur. And then I did something I'd never done before. I went to the train station. There was a sign at the ticket counter, train to Dnipro. 14:20, 17:40. I exhaled. Maybe he'd left earlier? Maybe it was just a mistake. I sent him my last messages. I hadn't changed my mind. If you still want to, I'll go with you. But I need to know you're near. The message didn't go through. A week passed. I was alone again. Only now, it felt like I'd been allowed to taste something real, and then it had been taken away. Without warning. But on the 8th day, the doorbell rang. He was standing on the threshold. In a dusty coat, holding a scratched phone. I'm sorry. He'd gotten into an accident on the way back. The car was totaled. The phone drowned. He was almost unharmed. I stood there, frozen. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just rushed to him and hugged him, as if I was holding on to air. He was shaking. So was I. I thought I'd lost everything. I thought it was already too late. Not yet, I answered, but if you disappear again, I'll strangle you. He laughed through his tears. We stood in the hallway, among the shoes, in a ridiculous pose, and it felt to me like I was finally home.